Don't make it so easy, Jordan.
I was trying to change the settings on my camera, but I couldn't figure it out.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Thursday, October 20th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by BETMGM. This one's pretty calm today. We had a crazy one yesterday. This one's going to feel a little bit more like Tuesday because it's just another two-game slate, and it's two of the teams that played on Tuesday. We have plenty of time to break down each team, but before we get started, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. We will be there. I'm positive Adam's going to say some ridiculous stuff, so you should follow him. Adam, what's going on? How did your Wednesday go?
It didn't go great. I'm already tired of basketball. I want baseball season to start over again. This shit is stupid.
I liked it. I had no problems with the slate yesterday. What did you hate the most?
The most Bam Adebayo. Devin Vassell right after him. Those two in particular.
Okay. Bam.
Miles Turner, the ball boy.
Yeah. Were you getting to Turner? Or did it cause...
I mean, I had like
the trickle-down effect was your problem.
I had like 10% Turner, but it just made me have to redo everything and end up with different exposures than I'd had earlier in the day, which it didn't matter. Like I was going to play a lot of Bam regardless. I was going to play a lot of Vassell regardless. The actual only thing that, well, I mean, I got more Jalen Smith, but like that was fine. I got to a lot more Franz Wagner after Anthony was ruled out. That was whatever. He scored like 31 fantasy points, but like nothing affected. I was going to lose yesterday regardless. But it was just annoying.
The Bam one hurt. You and I were talking about that one in DMs for a bit. I will not be sad at all that I had a ton of Bam. He was taking the most shots and just couldn't make shit to start.
Even if you told me, like, if you don't tell me his final, if you just give me like his box score and you just blur out the field goals made category, I'm still playing him at 6,400.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Anybody that you got like exceptionally right yesterday? Anybody that you had like a feel on that popped off?
I mean, I think for the most part, the guys that I had a lot of that did well were just popular too. You know, Keldon Johnson, Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
CJ McCollum did. He came through. Even after recrunching, I had like 2 to 3x the field on him. I actually ended up, I didn't really expect to get to him. I didn't love that I was getting to him, but I think it's because more value had opened up. I ended up getting over the field on DeRozan, which was good. Very good. Actually ended up playing more Luka than Jokic. Again, I think that was just because of how much Jalen Smith I ended up playing after Turner was ruled out. I just ended up getting to more Luka. It was either that or ownership changed. I'm not sure which, because I said on the show that if ownership started to push more toward Jokic, I would go Luka, but it was one of those two things happened, and I ended up with more of both of them in the aggregate, but then also more Luka than Jokic, which again, that's not really what I wanted to do, or it wasn't my plan. But once things changed, I got there.
Yeah, the DeRozan one is wild. I mean, you see that coming without Levine. I had mentioned it to you in a DM that his usage rate when Levine isn't on the floor or Ball's not on the floor is like 37%. You got exactly what you would expect out of DeRozan, a ton of mid-range stuff. I assumed that the Miami D was bad. They were like completely neutral. They just couldn't score at all, which sounds weird given like if you look at, Tyler Hero's line or whatever, but their offense was so bad. The guy that I hit the most yesterday that I'm happy about was Shea. He was like 3% owned on FanDuel. I ended up having like, something in the 20% range. He went absolutely nuts, 35, 6-6 or something like that. Bunch of stocks, or 35, 5-5 with 5 stocks. That was one that I was really happy to be on. But ultimately, hey, 3 in the top 1% for the first 2 days, like both days. If that continues forever, I assume I'm having a really good NBA day, or it's going to be like the worst season ever.
Yeah, or you're
or I'm
gonna
you.
look like I've looked for the last 2 months.
Yeah. Every morning waking up to your screenshot of like 9 top 1% lineups and all of them being like in the teens or lower is brutal.
Yeah, going to sleep to those is not fun either. But yeah, I was kind of just looking through my teams now. Anunoby did well. That was somebody that when I did the show with Greg, I was like, I'm getting a lot of Anunoby. I don't really know why, but he's showing up for me. He did well. I didn't play Aldama or Conchar much.
Yeah,
Don't
didn't
even know
have
if I
nearly
would
enough
like.
Aldama. That was a weird game for the Grizz too.
Yeah, like I don't even honestly know. Like they played plenty of minutes, but I think that was expected anyway. Even if you could run the slate back, I really don't know how much of those two I play anyway. Just
Yeah.
given you didn't need the value really, and there was just so many ways you could go where I didn't really think they were priorities anyway, and then they were projected to have some ownership. So I honestly don't even know if I'd still play them.
It's really hard to go back through a slate like yesterday with 12 games and think to yourself like, oh, I should have had more of this nondescript, like low owned guy. There's too many of them. They're
Right.
going to be everywhere. You can make that case for so many different people. If you want to say like, oh, I wish I would have got to more stud X because of Y, like I think you can make that path a little better. But the Aldamas of the world, the John Conchars of the world, who else went crazy as like low owned plays? Any
Bruno
of
Fernando.
Yeah, there you go.
That one, I think, so that one was sort of, I didn't late swap for it. I thought about it and kind of just decided, like, if that ends up being the difference in my night, then oh well. Because I didn't know how many minutes he was going to play. But that one, at least, it was like you knew you were going to get him at no ownership
Yeah.
because of the late starting lineup.
And you knew he would be like relatively productive because of the position that he plays.
Right.
Too.
But it was also like he's a center and there's 100 of those. I really don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so like I ended up with like 11 or 12% Denny Avdia at 3% owned. It's just kind of my thing. Like, do I really? I think Conchar was fine, but like, do I really need a 12% owned Conchar when I can get a 3% owned Avdia and they both produce the same points per minute?
No, you're making the right decision there. There are a million examples from yesterday of like for like swaps in and around the same salary where one guy's at 15% ownership and the other guy's at 2. There's like countless. If you got the right ones, you're in good shape. If you didn't, you didn't. Yeah, Paolo, big day. 3 rookies in the winning lineup on FanDuel last night, which is fun to see. Jaden Ivey, who I did have a bunch of, obviously Paolo Banchero, and then oh my God, why can't the dude from the Rockets? Why can't I think of his name?
Smith?
Jeez. Yes, actually made the winning lineup for the FanDuel side. Didn't have like a really good day or anything like that. I think it just was one of those situations where salary and price worked.
Yeah, looking at the winning DraftKings lineup, like I'm just never gonna get to that.
What was it?
It's fine. It's just like it was so far off the board. Like I'm just not gonna get to it. Gilgeous-Alexander, Giddey, DeRozan, Banchero, Valanciunas, Conchar, Aldama, Hartenstein.
Yeah. And the Hartenstein one, if anybody's patting themselves on the back for that one, you should cut your hands off. Dude played 40 minutes. He actually played a bad game in comparison to the amount of playing time that he got.
Yes, I had no idea how his stat line looked, but like looking at the lineup, like
he ended up playing 40 minutes in overtime because Mitchell Robinson was getting into foul trouble. If you play if you get the guy that plays 40 minutes, you damn better well have a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, but like looking at the lineup, like it's fine in the sense that like every player in it is fine. But it's just like from a probability standpoint, like once I'm playing Valanciunas and Hartenstein and Banchero and DeRozan, like why wouldn't I want to be mixing in guys that are more likely to succeed than like Josh Giddey? or
Where's Terry Rozier?
Right,
Where's
exactly.
the other Spurs in those
Yeah,
lineups?
like there's absolutely no reason once you have all those other guys that like I wouldn't want Terry Rozier instead of Josh Giddey.
Right. Like you make, let's just say you put that lineup into your sorter, the winning lineup, and you just like, I don't know the prices off the top of my head, but I assume Giddey and Rozier were like relatively close to each other.
They were literally the same.
Oh, well, even better. When you swap Rozier from Giddey to Rozier in that lineup, like the fantasy points are going to go up, but it's not like, and your likelihood of success in that lineup is going to go up. You don't need to be so far away. You're just putting in a better lineup. Like to me, that's not as good of a lineup as it could have been, even though it won.
Yeah, and it's just again, there were a million good plays yesterday.
Yeah,
and that's I think like you and I talked about it. Like it's gonna just be like a kind of random slate where and a pretty high scoring slate. It was actually lower scoring than I expected, but a pretty high scoring slate just because like there's a million good plays. So like yeah, I'm not even knocking the lineup. I'm just saying like I am always gonna play lineups that project better than that did before lock.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, you ready to break down this slate?
Sure.
Two of these teams should be pretty easy to talk about. The other two we haven't talked about yet. We're going to kick it off. Milwaukee Bucks, 4-point underdogs in Philadelphia, 225 total. There is a lot of injury news that we got to talk about for the Bucks. Chris Middleton is out, probably going to be out for a couple weeks. Pat Connaughton is out, also going to be out for a couple weeks. Joe Ingles, maybe we see at the end of the year, but I won't continue to mention him. Wes Matthews is available. This is a team that's not very deep, but we're not going to start with those guys. We're going to start with Giannis Antetokounmpo at the top. 10,700 on DraftKings, 11,300. I'm not getting to as much as I would have expected on DK. I'm about neutral on FanDuel. I'm going to have the Joel Embiid experience once again today, or at least that's what it's looking like it's going to be. Any particular thoughts on Giannis other than like, yeah, he's Giannis?
No, that's pretty much it. Like looking at the boom bust tool, we have him going slightly over owned, but nothing crazy. 48% ownership, 44% chance of being optimal. It just looks like somebody that, you know, if I get there, I get there. I'm certainly gonna be happy about it. He projects as the highest scorer on the slate. He also is the most expensive guy on the slate. He's not overpriced, but once again, you kind of have similar pricing to yesterday where Giannis is clearly underpriced at 10.7, but LeBron's 9,300, Anthony Davis is 8,600, Paul George is 8,900. Like everything's relative, and so he's still kind of correctly priced.
We'll hash out what you want to do with all the pay up options once we talk about them, because there's not much to say about Giannis. There's not much to say about Drew Holiday. 7,900 on DK, 8,800 on FanDuel. Does get a bump with no Chris Middleton to his usage rates. 30% owned on DraftKings, 30% owned on FanDuel. I'm getting a little bit more on FanDuel, even at that $8,800 price tag. But much like Giannis, you're just going to be playing like 30 to 40% of Drew. And that's just how today works, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. 7,900, no Middleton, just looks good. Revenge game, huge deal there.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, what? I got it. Are you ready to talk about my number one contender on FanDuel?
Who's that?
Well, he is 4,600 on DraftKings, not pulling all that much ownership. Still interesting to me. 3,800 on FanDuel. My favorite play on the Bucks is Grayson Allen today. Again, FanDuel specific, 3,800. They don't have Pat Connaughton. They don't have Chris Middleton. I don't see enough guys on this team that I think are going to close for the Bucks. I think he's going to play 30 minutes. If he's shooting guard small forward, sub 4K, he's not a great per minute guy. He's like a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. But in terms of guys that can soak up minutes, I don't know who else it's going to be here for Milwaukee.
No, I agree with you. The reason that I am joking about it is like there's been a million times that I play Grayson Allen in spots where I think he looks good and he never actually is good. So I know how it's going to go for you, but I agree with your thinking that it makes sense.
Yeah. And like on DraftKings, there's a reason he's 13% owned. 4,600 is a very different salary. I still like him there. I think that's a little bit underrepresentative, but I think the minutes are going to be there for Allen because they're going to fill it out with, I don't know how many minutes out of Wes Matthews, who might just be the worst DFS player in basketball. Jordan Nwora is going to be relatively limited since Giannis and Drew are still here. Portis is active. Lopez is active. So while you'd normally see Nwora step into something for Middleton, 5,100 on DraftKings makes it really tough. 4,300 on FanDuel makes it a little easier. George Hill is a corpse at this point. Javon Carter, not exactly a big fantasy guy. Mamu, if he gets in there, not really threatening Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is my lean. What do you want to do with the rest of these guys? How are you feeling about Portis and Lopez? Let's bucket them together since I think they kind of work together here.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I feel like Javon Carter is probably the one that ends up screwing you over.
Certainly possible.
If somebody does.
Yeah.
As far as Portis and Lopez, a little bit cheaper price tag on Lopez, obviously less fantasy points per minute as well. We have Lopez projected for 22.8 DraftKings points, 30.6 coming into Portis, which is just going to make him look better at only $600 more.
By the way, I think that Wes Matthews would be ahead of Javon Carter in any sort of closing lineup, but either one of those guys doing that over Grayson Allen is still not what I'm looking for. Yeah, I mean, Portis just crushing ownership perspective. I assume is that just like, I think he's a better play, clearly, but I think the power forward eligibility with Lopez only being center eligible is what's causing a lot of that issue. You think you're more likely to get to that Portis ownership or get over on Lopez?
The way things look right now, probably Portis, just because their optimal percentage is in line with their ownership, both, and Portis projects better, and he's more flexible, position-wise, not that much more expensive. I just assume I'll get to more Portis.
Okay. Lopez 4,900 on FanDuel, center only. Portis 5,800 there, power forward center. Portis getting that same sort of ownership on both sites. I think the Bucks look solid. Like to me, they're pretty cut and dry. I don't get the sense that I'll have a ton of Wes Matthews unless we hear something different. He needs to play 30 minutes for you to want to have a sizable amount of Wes Matthews.
He needs to play 30 minutes to like 4x.
Yeah. I mean, if you project Wes Matthews for 30 minutes, you're projecting him for 15 fantasy points.
Right.
That's bad. Jordan War, I've got that same projection on Jordan War in 20.
Yeah. Jordan War is 5,100 on DraftKings though.
Yeah, that's a tough one. 4,300 on FanDuel. If he's 6% owned, I think is pretty sneaky. As sneaky as you can be on a 2-gamer. Is there anybody else that we should be touching on here? Do you see yourself like, we've got 9% ownership going to Javon Carter on DK. At that point in time, I think you're kind of squeezing all the juice out at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's about as high as it probably should get. Oh, I had like, I don't know, like a smudge on my screen, and I thought, so we have Javon Carter at 16% to be optimal on DraftKings. I thought it said -16, and so I'll say, okay, well, one, that's impossible, but two, that probably should be the Wes Matthews column.
I'm confident I know what that smudge is. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add here. We'll circle back and talk about Giannis and Drew in relationship to the other pay-up options. But for now, got to hit you guys with the schedule for the rest of the day. And get ready. This might be the most busy day we've ever had. I think we have like 30-something pieces of video content going out across all of our channels today. We've got the NFL Matchup Show Strategy, or NFL Strategy Show Matchup Edition coming up after this at 11 a.m. We've got the MMA Strategy Show at 1. We've got the the No House Advantage. No, we've got NHL. God, I'm terrible at this. I'm starting over. Ignore everything that I just said because I'm a moron. There's too many acronyms in the schedule that they're all different and breaking my brain.
NFL While you're ignoring everything he just said, also throw Grayson Allen into that too.
NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition at 11. MMA Strategy Show at 1 p.m. NHL Strategy Show at 2 p.m. The No House Advantage Football Show at 3. The No House Advantage Basketball Show at 3:30. NBA Deeper Dive, we'll see. Either 5 o'clock or 5:30. Not entirely sure as of yet. Either 6 or 6:30 for the NBA Live Before Lock, and then NFL Live Before Lock coming up at 7 o'clock. We've got Thursday Night Football. Do you know who the Thursday Night Football game is?
Absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I don't have a contenders video for that, so it's not me.
I think the Saints are playing somebody. I saw Alex tweet about Taysom Hill yesterday, so I'm probably not even going to play.
There we go. Saints Cardinals, apparently. 8 live shows coming up today, guys. Make sure you're watching them. Now, we go to the Philadelphia 76ers, which we saw 2 days ago. Should make rotations look a little bit easier. We saw Montrezl Harrell be the straight backup in the first game. Would I be surprised to see Paul Reed play in a matchup against Milwaukee in lieu of a little bit of Harrell? No, but I'm giving it to Harrell. We saw a 9-man rotation out of Philly. They didn't have Shake Milton either. Let's start at the top. Joel Embiid, 10,300 on DraftKings, 10,200 on FanDuel. Let's just straight compare him now. Do you prefer Embiid or Giannis?
I prefer Giannis if I can find the $400. You get an extra position you can play him at. You get a better point per minute guy. But I still think Embiid is good. He played 37 minutes opening night. I'm glad I didn't know that going in. I would have had more than 75%.
Well, I had 97%, so it probably wouldn't have affected me. I wish you would have played less.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to give him that much run right out of the gate, he's going to be really difficult to get away from on most slates. Not that I'm projecting 37 minutes here, but it's enough for me to at least go from 33 to 34 or something like that.
I got him 34.
You're talking about, a 1.5 plus fantasy point per minute guy that matters. So he looks really good. I think he's just a little bit too close in salary to Giannis, but kind of, splitting hairs.
Yeah. I am getting to Embiid once again. I was there 2 days ago. It wasn't great. We'll see how it shakes out here tonight. What do you want to do with James Harden, who was sort of the hero for Philly, if anybody was a hero in that first one? 9K on DK, 9,700 on FanDuel, not pulling all that much ownership, not really getting to him either here. I don't like this spot as much for Harden as I did on Tuesday.
I like the price tag at 9K, 28% ownership, but we still only have him with a 21% chance of being optimal. The thing that really stands out to me is, obviously he was really good in that game. Still only had a 25% usage rate, which is pretty much in line with what he did after he came to Philadelphia last year. So to me, I'm not really taking anything away from that first game other than James Harden is good at basketball and he's going to have some big fantasy games. I'm not looking at it like, oh, it's James Harden's team to run now or anything like that. I still think he's going to get a lot of assists. I still think he's going to be a mid-20s usage guy. You're going to have plenty of blow-up games. You're going to have some other games where he kind of just takes a step back because he's playing with Joel Embiid. So guys like that are typically either, if you get them at a really cheap salary, then, obviously it doesn't matter. But also ownership just ends up mattering to me a ton because they just end up being pretty volatile options. Right now, projected for more ownership than he probably deserves. And there's this is tough to factor into ownership projections, but we're talking about game 3 of the season. Everybody watched the first Philadelphia game. We have a 2-game slate here. Wouldn't be surprised at all if you just see Harden's ownership pump a bit at the expense of Embiid.
What about Tyrese Maxey here? 5,200 on DraftKings just seems underpriced. 56% owned, however, starts to get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, 56% is a lot of ownership. We also still have him with a 47% chance of being optimal, though. Even though he wasn't that productive from a fantasy standpoint in game 1, 29.75 DraftKings points, it kind of reiterated why he was such a good play at 5K, and now at 5,200, it's the same thing. He played 38 minutes. He had a 21% usage rate. Neither of those things are super surprising. I had projected him for 36 minutes and I think, 20 to 21% usage. And he just kind of, for most of the game, was just sort of out there. I can't remember who it was tweeted that they wanted to start tracking how many minutes into the game it takes for them to get Maxey a non-transition front court touch. And you had
he didn't have one for the first couple minutes of the game.
Yeah, or the first couple minutes of that, the second half either. You had Stan Van Gundy basically complaining all game, this guy is so much better than they're using him as. So, obviously there's the upside that at some point they start using him more, but at this price tag, it just doesn't matter. He's priced to just be a guy out there running alongside Embiid and Harden for 36, 38 minutes, who is just really good when he does get to touch the ball. So it's just tough to get away from him at that salary because the way I look at that first game is basically he didn't do anything special. He just did exactly what you would expect him to do and just walked into 6x the salary basically.
Yeah. Cash game lock today?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think Tobias Harris looks pretty interesting at 5,500, just the way that the Bucks play D. I could see him getting loose for a couple random threes if they're falling. I assume you don't have any really specific Tobias Harris thoughts. He's 40% owned, and I think that's exactly where he should be.
We have him with a 52% chance of being optimal.
Holy shit. Okay. Well, then I think we like Tobias Harris a little bit more. What do we have him projected for?
30.9.
Is it me that just went and heard nothing, or there go the AirPods. Okay. I was going to say something feels weird. I don't think that I heard you. What are you? Sign language? Now? I got 2 for you.
30.9.
11.
30.9.
Okay. Yeah, I got him at 30.3, so that seems fine.
I think it's probably the positional aspect, small forward, power forward. I mean, I guess you do have LeBron on the slate, but you don't have Chris Middleton. Small forward's probably just a useful spot to get to Harris.
I don't even think I need to ask you that, but we're going straight back to PJ Tucker, 3,500 power forward center, right?
Yeah.
Playing more minutes than we were expecting to play.
Yeah, he's another one where like I'm really glad that I didn't know how many minutes he was going to play. I gave him 28 minutes last
Yeah.
game. I'll be like 28 to 30 here.
I gave him 30.
Yeah, I'll probably go 30. But yeah, I mean, it's just he's another one. He kind of just did what you expected him to do. He had a 10% usage rate. He missed some wide open threes that, kind of that's going to make or break how his game goes. Anybody that has played DFS for any amount of time on slates where either they play PJ Tucker at low ownership or PJ Tucker is popular and you don't play him, and you're watching, that's what it comes down to, is either he runs into some defensive stats or like just a crazy amount of rebounds, which is unlikely, or it's just like he gets his 4 or 5 wide open looks and you're just sitting there like, please miss, because if he misses he's not going to get there, and if he makes them he is going to get there because he's so cheap. So it's really what it comes down to. But at 3,500 he's just going to look like a good value option. He is projected for 31% ownership here, which the other day he was projected for like 12 or 13. 31% PJ Tucker is obviously a little bit more problematic given who PJ Tucker is, but I also don't really know where there hasn't been a lot of value that we're looking at that I think is like low owned and good. Even within this game, the Anthony Melton, who's somebody that I played the other day and played the minutes I expected, just did absolutely nothing with them. But even he's projected for 32% ownership. So, like if you tell me PJ Tucker is going to get 30% and DeAnthony Melton's going to get 15, I'm going to be jamming in DeAnthony Melton. If you tell me they're both going to get 30, I'm probably going to play both, but like I'll probably just take the one that I can give 30 minutes to.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot more of Tucker than I am of Melton. Let's just get to Melton then, because he's the only non-starter pulling anything from an ownership perspective. Nobody's getting to House, Niang, Harrell. I don't have anything to add on House, Niang, Harrell. On a 2-game slate, anybody can sort of sneak in at that 3K mark if they just get hot enough. It doesn't take a lot to get there, but they are not the priorities. Melton, though, 32% owned on DraftKings at 3,800, 45% owned on FanDuel at 3,800. Like, I'm just going to get to a different version of that in bulk. Do I think that Melton is a good option? Yeah. I just don't know how many minutes are going to be out there for him.
Yeah, I mean, I buy into the 20-ish minutes he played last game. Like that's what I had projected him for. I had told you I thought they were going to run a 9-man rotation. And
True.
I mean, they did play Thibault for 23 seconds, but they ran the backcourt rotation
there.
What'd you
say? That's not a rotation.
Right. Yeah, I know. They ran the same backcourt rotation that they had shown in the first half of their like dress rehearsal preseason game, where it was just 2 all the time of Maxey, Harden, Melton. Melton's a good point per minute guy. The issue is that he's going to have these games where he just disappears. Like he had an 8.5% usage rate opening night. He's always going to be on the floor with at least one of Embiid and Harden. And so you're just never going to be able to trust him. Like you're never going to trust like the offense is running through him, because Maxey's always going to be out there too. So it's always going to be 2 of Maxey, Harden, and Embiid, I think. Right?
It's always going to be at least 1.
Right. That's what I meant.
Trying to set FC rules right now.
Yeah. So like he's fully capable of disappearing, but this is also somebody that can run into a bunch of steals. Like he's kind of in a similar role as he was for a lot of the time in Memphis, except at least as of right now, I don't think this coach hates him like Jenkins did. Yeah. So you're going to get those minutes, and it's just like there's going to be a lot of games where it's fun, and it's just like, oh, DeAnthony Melton just picked up 4 steals and 3 layups in transition and scored 12 fantasy points in 2 minutes. Or you're going to get the games where it's just like, okay, we can't even tell DeAnthony Melton's on the floor.
Yeah, I don't love the 45.5% ownership on FanDuel. Like I got to 26 on my first run, and I'm pretty happy there, where like I'm still getting to him. He's still a good value, but I mean, we've got a Clippers team that has like 15 different dudes that could be the best play of the day. So we'll get there in a little bit. Is there anything else you want to touch on for Phil? Go ahead.
5% Daniel House, I actually like.
This is the kind of spot he could play a little bit more.
So that, but also looking at the rotation from last game, he was basically the straight backup to PJ Tucker. They played a couple minutes alongside each other, but every minute that PJ Tucker was not on the floor, Daniel House was. PJ Tucker can very easily get in foul trouble. Yep. And you just get more minutes for House. House can play well and you get more minutes. I think there's a lot of just sort of ways upward for Daniel House here at no ownership. And then there's also some negative correlation with a popular PJ Tucker.
Yeah, I like that. I like that shout. I got the 4%. Like I'm around the field. It's a hard guy that I'm going to be, or the guy that I don't expect to take a stand on. DFIC, by the way, Popcorn Machine is updated. You just have to do the manual updates. But all of the data is in there. I've used it this morning on the process show.
Also, you can just use the add more funds tool. Also, like it's, I used to use Popcorn Machine constantly, and then it was down for a prolonged period of time, so I got used to the add more funds one, and it's the same info.
The visual of Popcorn Machine is just so burned in my brain.
No, that was my issue. But then they had that like 1 month where they just didn't update anything, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I need the switch. Yeah. Now it's like I look at Popcorn Machine and it's like looking at a foreign language.
Yeah, no, it's the only thing. Like it's the only one I know how to do. Anything else here?
No, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned house.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, the deal here. BetMGM is the sponsor. I got one for you guys. It sounds weird. I understand. Actually, before we do anything, 450 people in here, 52 likes. Not enough. Hit that thumbs up. We need to be up over 100. We should not be having this kind of ratio. This is poor. 10% or so. Ugh, not good. Get it up to 100. We need 20%. BetMGM is the sponsor. There is a link in the description. If you live in a legal state and you have not signed up at BetMGM yet, I want you to click that link, head on over, and make a deposit. I need you guys to bet $10 on any NHL money line pregame. Whether it wins or loses, I hope it wins for you guys. But you just need a goal to be scored in that game. You'll get $200 in free bets. It's that simple. If you're looking to get into sports betting and you are in a legal state, it's a great way to get your bankroll kicked off. Again, you'll find that link in the description of this video. It's BetMGM. You're betting on an NHL money line. I know this is an NBA show. It's got to be an NHL money line. All righty. We now go late night hammer. Clippers at the Lakers. We already saw the Lakers. We have not seen the Clippers. Clippers 5.5-point favorites in here. The return of Kawhi Leonard after a year out. This should be interesting. The return of John Wall after what feels like 20 years out of basketball. Let's start at the top. Kawhi and Paul George. We have Kawhi projected for 16% ownership on DraftKings. That has to be an assumption that he's not playing full minutes. Otherwise, that's the most ridiculous and obvious play for today, correct?
Yeah, I think so. But it's also kind of weird because we have him projected for 34 minutes.
I got him in for 34 minutes, and if he's 16% owned, he's in 81% of my DraftKings lineups.
What do you have him projected for?
Fantasy points?
Yeah.
45.
Okay, we have him at 38.4.
Okay. I'll bet my life that he's not a 1.12 fantasy point per minute guy moving forward.
Yeah. 1.31 in 43 games with Paul George over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. When you add those numbers together, you'll get to something very close to 45. Yeah, he's a 1.3 guy in my baseline. I actually have him a little bit higher. I think just from the matchup, I think it's going to be pretty good. I think we see that change as we move forward. If he's 16% owned, to me, he's the unequivocal, easy number one play of the day.
Yeah, at 8,400.
Paul George, 8,900, 29% owned. I think he looks pretty good too, but I prefer Kawhi given those two sets of information, but I'm also still very happy to get to Paul George. Those are the two guys that I trust the most, assuming they're both playing 34 minutes.
Yeah, 1.24 DraftKings points per minute in those 43 games for George. He looks good. 8,900 is a very reasonable price tag. I think ownership between the two, and I think this is kind of what you were getting at as well. I think ownership between the two should be pretty similar. If it's going to be as spread out as it is right now, where there's basically twice as much coming into George, I'm just going to play a ton of Kawhi. I expect that those numbers get closer, though, and I end up just playing a good amount of both.
Yeah, I would like to get to both. I'm not getting to as much George. He's 9,200 on FanDuel, so that's a little more limiting. We'll talk about the reasons that I'm not getting there in a bit, but no problems at all getting to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Those are the two guys that are easy to talk about because their roles for this team are set in stone, barring health. And then it all goes to shit. Best of luck trying to figure out who's going to play for the Clippers. I had enough trouble just figuring out who the 10 guys were going to be, leaving out guys like Terrence Mann, just not making the rotation for me. I think they could very easily play Amir Coffey for some minutes. I don't know if Nick Batum plays today. I don't know if Brandon Boston plays today. It's a weird one. When you look at the Clippers, do you have someone that immediately stands out as your next most interesting guy?
I don't really think so.
Yeah.
I don't trust a lot here, and the pricing kind of all seems reasonable. Like Zubats at 5,300, sure, whatever. Reggie Jackson's at 6,200. Not only is he contending with Kawhi and George, but we don't know exactly what that rotation is going to look like with John Wall here too. Marcus Morris, 4,500, like sure, 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy, give or take. Probably playing around 28 minutes.
I got him in for 28 minutes right now. He's the guy that I'm getting to the most of anyone else. But I mean, this whole team's primed to go to play 24 minutes each. Like, I don't have a concept of who I think is the most likely to close out of any of these guys. I think it's Morris. I think it's Norm Powell. I don't have a damn clue who I think is going to be the fifth closing guy here. Like, it's tricky.
Yeah, in what kind of looks like their preseason dress rehearsal, at least from the first half, they ran a 10-man rotation. And to your point, it was just like a lot of the bench guys playing, 6 minutes in the first half. But you had Zubats, Powell, Jackson, Morris, George starting, Batum, Wall, Kennard, Mann, and Brown off the bench. But as you were saying, so Covington didn't play at all there, but Amir Coffey didn't play at all there, but certainly could.
Like, I think Robert Covington might be the closing center for the Clippers.
Right. It's a really weird.
He's center only. How stupid is that?
Makes it pretty easy not to play him.
Yeah. Small forward, power forward on FanDuel. I got John Wall in for 20 minutes. I don't think this is going to be the spot where they're just running him out there for 30 something. Do you find him viable if he's on a minutes limit?
If he played like 24 minutes at 4,900, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with him. Like, Reggie Jackson, 6,200. If he's not starting, that seems tough.
Reggie Jackson is starting, right?
I don't know.
Pretty sure that was confirmed.
What if it's Wall?
I'm pretty sure they said Reggie Jackson is starting.
Interesting. Okay. Feel a little bit better then about Reggie Jackson, but not really at 6,200, more so at 5,400.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I just saw that show up like a couple days ago.
Yeah, check and see. I don't remember seeing that. Basketball Monster has Wall right now. I don't know if that's just an easier way for them to manage rotations.
As of October 16th, Clippers Reggie Jackson expected to open season as starter.
Okay. So we're looking then like Jackson, question mark, Jackson, George, Morris, Leonard, Zubats?
Jackson, George, Morris, Leonard, Zubats. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, so in that preseason game that I mentioned, Kawhi didn't play. So he's probably in there for Powell.
Dexter saying Reggie was confirmed starter days ago. There's nothing confirmed on this Clippers team. I want to be very clear here. Don't be surprised if it's other starters tonight. You're going to see this team with random dudes getting DMP CDs a lot. They have too many guys. And there's going to be a day where Terrence Mann doesn't play, and then he's going to start 2 days later.
To clarify this, Reggie Jackson was confirmed as the starter. Spencer Dinwiddie was also confirmed as the sixth man for the Mavs.
Right. There are reports out there. They'll be confirmed as starters in however many hours it takes to get to 9:30. Yeah, well, I saw Dinwiddie last night. I was just like, of course, obviously. Can't listen to anybody before this shit. What do we do with the rest of this team? How do you manage the Clippers? Is this a spot where you're just setting a ridiculous amount of groups to try to hash this out? Or are you just okay, I'm gonna get 2 or 3 of these guys randomly, or do they all just sort of look like shit?
So one thing I wanted to say specifically, because we kind of got sidetracked with the Reggie Jackson thing. John Wall, $400 more expensive than Marcus Morris. Right now we have Morris projected for 28% ownership, Wall for 9%. Part of that is probably the positions they play, but we have Wall projected for 21 to 22 minutes. We have Morris at 28, and we only have Morris getting 1.5 points more than Wall. To me, that gap should not be that big in ownership between those two.
I just don't know how long Wall can be out there. How much do you push him?
But that's what I'm saying is we have him at 21 minutes. That's not. I mean, like I don't think that's aggressive.
I just think for Wall, I don't know what he does. I think he sucks. So I think that's probably the issue. Uh, I think it's been 5 years since John Wall has been anything worth a shit, and I don't really expect him to be any good, but maybe that's the issue.
I mean, he certainly put up some fantasy points when Houston let him play.
That was 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, but it's not like he was hurt. He's just been sitting around.
I don't think that's a good thing.
For somebody like John Wall, I do.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that's played what, like 800 minutes in 5 years?
Yeah, but we're talking about somebody that relies on athleticism and had been banged up. He's at least at the start of the year. I think he's going to look good.
I think
And
he's
he
going to
played so.
be an inefficient point guard that does not really fit this team.
So 2 preseason games ago, John Wall. So we got a starting lineup of Wall, George, Leonard, Morris, Zubats. Again, not expecting that to be the starting lineup, but Wall played 20 minutes in that game, had a 37.2% usage rate, 24 and a quarter DraftKings points. I mean, the big takeaway there is he played 20 minutes in a preseason game. Like, I think projecting 20 to 22 minutes here is extremely reasonable.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think that I could go much higher than like 24 on him. That's for sure.
Yeah,
and at 6K on FanDuel, I'm happy. That just kind of takes him out of my player pool. I just don't know how to break down the Clippers. It's like, if you think that Zubats can have a big day today, by all means. If you think it's like, to me, Norm Powell's sort of the sneakiest one because he's the biggest like heat check guy, efficiency guy. If anybody's going to be in like the 20% range, I mean, he's an ultra efficient scorer. That's the guy that I kind of like that could just fall into additional time. But if he's not starting, right? He's already limiting. I think he closes. I think it's one Leonard, George, guards, Morris, Wall, Powell,
Jackson.
question mark.
So what's your guess at the closing lineup?
Leonard, George, Morris, Powell, Covington.
Okay, mine is Leonard, George, Morris, Powell, one of the point guards.
Yeah, I don't like against the late as big as like with LeBron and AD. I think they'd be more likely to have a second big on. Do you really need a point guard out there against the Lakers, or do you want the additional length and switchability?
It might also depend on what the score is.
Yeah, for sure. The Clippers might just be up by 15 at that point in time because I think it's a terrible matchup.
I meant if they're behind, I think you're more likely to want like Reggie Jackson out there than Covington. But
is that true though? Like at that point in time, are you looking for an inefficient guard to have more of the ball? Like the ball is running through Paul George and Kawhi at the end anyway. Does the point guard matter any longer?
Yeah.
You've already got Norm Powell out there as the third guy to do any of that shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like it could be Covington. It's just I don't know what he's really doing there either. Like you have George.
He's just part of a 5-man defense that can switch 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Like they're playing without a backup center, without a backup traditional center. I would not be surprised if Covington is part of that closing lineup. I think he's more likely to close than the 2 point guards.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Either way, I think Powell's closing.
I would be shocked if Norm Powell isn't closing. I think Norm Powell's the third best player on this team. Morris is going to hold up as much as he can. I'd be really surprised if Zubats was any part of a closing lineup. If he's doing well against AD, I don't think it's outlandish. Lakers aren't exactly set up to be a really good spread pick and roll team, so that's probably a good thing for Zubats. So I think he kind of fits this matchup a little bit better. I mean, the whatever, like I don't have a good feel for it, but the Clippers are going to dictate the winner of tonight's slate more so than any other team because it's the team with the most question marks. I don't know what to do there. And like, we're not going to get any additional information, by the way. Like, it's going to be a crapshoot while we watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll have no feel whatsoever of where this is going. Let's see. Wall can finish at the rim with the best of him. Yeah. You're thinking of John Wall from multiple years ago. He can get to the rim. But it's been a couple years since he has been getting to the rim efficiently. Most recent season with Houston, 1,300 minutes, 31st percentile in accuracy at the rim. Anxious to see where we go here. Really curious to see the starting lineup, whether that's Reggie. Like Reggie Jackson, do you like Reggie Jackson more if he starts or comes off the bench?
I don't really care.
Okay.
But also, I just think he's starting.
Okay. You never know with Wall because of seniority and all that malarkey.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel differently if they hadn't explicitly said Reggie Jackson is starting.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
my question to you for
I'm
that is just like, what does he, where can he soak up? Is that usage
right
matter?
Now. Like,
I think it's more 50-50 than whatever got reported a couple days ago.
Yeah, I don't know how you can say it's 50-50 when the team was like Reggie Jackson starting.
Well, because I don't trust
it.
Like,
I agree it's not 100%, but like this is clearly not like I'll bet you straight up that Reggie Jackson's the starting point guard tonight.
I don't think I should get I think I should get odds in this bet.
You just said it was 50-50.
No, I said it's more 50-50 than not. You said Josh Houston? I don't understand that. I don't get it.
Can't figure it out.
Vic said, what about Batum? He's either playing or not playing today. I think you can make a case to go either direction.
If he plays, it's probably not enough, but I guess it could be.
I gave him 15 minutes. That could just as easily be Terrence Mann.
Right. I'll say I'm going Mann, but I don't know.
You could also take 15 minutes away from Luke Kennard and make that Nick Batum. Like, I don't. The 9th and 10th guys in this rotation, if they're running a 10-man rotation, pick them out of a hat. We don't know it.
What did they do?
And they're going to be different every game.
Right. So to that point, so I mentioned the most recent preseason game where Kawhi sat, but they ran, a 10-man rotation and it was all, reasonable names. 2 games ago, when you had the starting lineup of Wall, George, Morris, Leonard, and Zubats, first guy off the bench, Nick Batum, played 13 and a half minutes in the first half.
Okay. So Wall started their last 2.
No, Wall started. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2.
I think you said it was the most recent if you just looked at the second one too. I was just making sure I heard you correctly.
He came off the bench in their most recent. He started 2 games ago.
Okay. Well, the long and short of it for me here, and the key takeaway from the Clippers, is that Kawhi Leonard looks like the best option.
Yeah, but I do also think, just to get back to obviously we've kind of just named a bunch of guys. I didn't really care too much about groups opening night on the 2-gamer. I do with this team because the range of outcomes on minutes is just so wide from 0 to 18. If Batum actually did just go out there and play 18 minutes at 3,500 and probably no ownership, he's going to be an interesting play. Certainly a pivot away from PJ Tucker. Same can be said. I mean, the thing is, Terrence Mann is more expensive. Kennard's more expensive. So I guess it's kind of just, I'm probably going to just project more minutes to the Clippers than are actually going to be played, and then just set a group to make sure that I don't get Mann, Kennard, Batum together.
Not the worst idea. We don't have a ton of time here, but we already sort of know what we want to do with the Lakers since we saw them play already. We did see Wenyen Gabriel be the direct backup for Anthony Davis from a checking in, checking out perspective. Juan Toscano-Anderson out there. We did not see Damian Jones. Matt Ryan was the sort of surprise addition to their rotation. AD and LeBron similarly owned on DraftKings, 8,600 and 9,300. They are similarly owned on FanDuel as well at 9,900 and 10,800. When you look at those 2 guys, do you prefer LeBron or AD?
I prefer LeBron, just slightly. I think obviously
AD both for me, but same question as we do this every time the Lakers play.
Yeah, I pretty much always have LeBron projected a little bit higher.
Yeah. Any takeaway? Does that ownership seem reasonable to you?
Yeah, I slightly prefer LeBron. He's slightly more popular. We have them both basically correctly owned by optimal percentage. They both just seem like good plays.
Assuming Russ starts and plays 32 minutes like he was about to on Tuesday, 7K and 7,200, I'm still happy to get to some Russ. 24% owned. I think he's a little underrepresented.
Yeah, I agree. We have him at 27% to be optimal. So I'm not going to be super confident there, and I don't love getting the rust, but on a 2-game slate, 24% ownership is a little bit low for somebody that you can expect to play 30 plus minutes and does average over a fantasy point per minute.
Yeah, I got a lot on FanDuel right now at 7,200, getting a bunch, still getting to them on DraftKings. Then you get the quadrant. Nah, that's not the word I'm looking for. The group of 4: Lonnie Walker, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, Austin Reeves. Those are the guys that I think are like legit viable as filler. Walker, Beverley, similar in ownership. Nunn a little bit lighter. I like Nunn the most out of this group. Although Beverley fought some foul trouble in that first one, I still gave him 28 minutes here. Looks great at 4,100. Beverley and Nunn are the two guys I like the most out of that group. Happy to get to Walker, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to specifically mention that with Beverley. He played like 24, almost 25 minutes, but he did really battle foul trouble. You got some of that back. He played a really long stint from like the middle of the third, basically through the end of the game. But I kind of just view it as like that's what Patrick Beverley is. As a starter last year, he averaged, I think it was like 28 minutes per game. I think that's just a really fair projection here. When he's in foul trouble, he's going to play 24. When he's not in foul trouble, he'll probably play like 30, 32. So at 4,100, I think he looks like a really good value that's going a little bit under-owned. Kendrick Nunn, came off the bench, still got to 23 minutes. He did kind of benefit from Beverly's foul trouble in that he subbed in basically right out of the gate in the third quarter, but he still only played like a 5-minute stint there and then went to the bench for a while, played like a normal backup rotation in the fourth. So I think you're probably looking at like 20 to 22 minutes from Nunn, but at 3,700, like it could be more if somebody's in foul trouble or if he's playing well, but also at 3,700, even if it is 20 to 22, he's going to look fine.
Okay. Anything there for you for Austin Reeves? Any thoughts on Lonnie Walker? Like, I think Lonnie Walker just sort of exists now. We kind of know what we're getting there.
Yeah, I expect Walker to play, that 28 to 30 minutes. He's going to get like 0.75 to 8.8 fantasy points per minute. He's 4,100. He looks fine. I think paying attention to the ownership between him and Beverly makes sense. Right now, he is getting a little bit less than Beverly. I think Beverly projects a little bit better, so that makes sense. But like, if you start to get a bigger gap, or if Walker were to start to be more popular than Beverly, then in that case, I would go toward Beverly. If you start to get a bigger gap in ownership, then I think Walker starts to look a little bit better.
Do you see yourself doing the Austin Reeves thing, taking a flyer on Matt Ryan? I know I never get Matt Ryan right in the NFL, so I can't imagine I'm going to get it right in the NBA. I don't really see Juan Toscano-Anderson or Wenyen Gabriel as guys I want to get to because I think the minutes are just limited outside of foul trouble. Anything there for you guys?
Austin Reeves,
just you.
Yeah. If Austin Reeves is going to get half the ownership of PJ Tucker, I think he's a reasonable pivot.
Yeah.
The minutes are obviously volatile. He only played 16 last game. Did deal with some foul trouble in the first half. He probably would have played a little bit longer at the end of that half. But with Reeves, there's just a lot of ways for him to get on the floor. And at 3,300, like in a cash game, I would go PJ Tucker. But if I'm trying to choose between the two, but I don't think, you should be getting 2-to-1 odds on PJ Tucker versus Austin Reeves. They both suck, and you're just kind of hoping to get lucky.
You'll have GPP videos later. You'll be on the deeper dive later. I'm assuming no injury report today?
No.
Okay. Who are the favorite pay up options? Let's give the people what they want here out of the gate. If you're paying up, what are the priorities for you?
They kind of look, a lot of them look similar to me, but I think Giannis and LeBron.
Okay. And yeah, that works. For me, I'm going to be looking at probably Embiid and AD. So you and I can have some fun with this.
Yeah.
We're cheering for opposite stuff. That's fine, though, guys. That's what we're here for. This is DFS. Good luck to everybody. NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition coming up next. Adam will have a ton coming out later. My contenders videos are already done. Process is already done. Nothing for me later tonight. So good luck, everybody. Win some money. Thanks to BetMGM. We are out of here.